Welcome to the Andrea Giovino Show. Today we have a wonderful guest, a good friend of mine, George Martorano. I have a lot of respect for him. 32 years he did straight in a federal penitentiary. I'd love to introduce you here, my good friend, George Martorano.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you, Andrea. I don't know if you know it, but I heard about you long ago. Long
Sure.
ago when I was in a cell with John Gotti. I did a little over 2 years with John, 86 and 87, when he was in his first RICO. And the first year we were in 22-hour lockup.
Wow.
So when you were in a cell 22 hours with an individual, you talk about everything and anything. And, of course, you talk about girls. And John brought you up. He says, when you were slinging that marijuana, he said, did you deal with Andrea? I says, Andrea, oh, yeah, she's a beautiful girl. I don't know what she was doing, but she was involved with the marijuana. I says, no, I never met her, but what I'm trying to relay, I heard about you.
Right. I was lending money out. That's what you
I heard
probably
about
meant.
you way back when I was in the cell with John.
Because I was lending money to drug dealers, so he probably figured, did I lend to you? That's probably where he's going with that.
Well, you know, me and John, we had a rule. You know, we talked, but we never went across the line on certain things. Violence, you know, we didn't ever cross the line on certain things. But like I said, when you're in a cell, the first year it was 22 hours.
Wow.
Okay.
Tell me about, though, I want to know about what your life was about. How did you actually get to that point?
I was a kid raised in a mob family. My godfather was Angelo Bruno. He come to a sad demise in 1980. We were in the vending business. We probably the vendors in the whole city, Philadelphia, surrounding areas, South Jersey. So, you know, I worked. We had restaurants, we had vending, and then my poor godfather was killed, and I got tired of working, so
But I know your father had a big name.
Yeah, my father was Long John. They say he's probably the biggest earner ever in the city of Philadelphia. He went to a sad demise in 2002. I had to mourn him in a cell. So, you know, we know the life.
Right.
We know the life, you and I. So I lived through it. And I don't know how I survived 32 plus years in solitary. The first 5 years was, the first 5 years was in solitary, I'm sorry. And it was not nice. I almost lost my mind in one jail. They threw me in it's called a boxcar cell. Mm-hmm. They're condemned. Boxcar cells is 2 steel doors before you even get in the cell. And then it's all steel, no window. And it was in a bad jail in St. Louis. And had one light bulb on a string. And I was only there about 2 days, and the light bulb went out. And the worst thing you can do, my belief, worst thing you can do to a human being is keep him in the dark. And I was in the dark. I lost count. I screamed for light. I cried for light. And would save me, actually. They used to feed me, Andrea, they used to feed me with a pole.
Whoa.
On the bottom of the 2 doors was a slot. And they used to feed me like an animal with
Wow.
a pole, push the food in. And that's the only time I would see any daylight. And one day I was on my knees, and my eye caught a pencil. It was a small pencil, and I think I'd saved my mind because I started writing. So I became a writer. I wrote many, many books in prison, and I started writing on the walls, the floor, everything. And I was there for about 2 weeks, and that saved me from losing my mind. They were very evil towards me because I was a Marion prisoner.
In Marion.
Marion was the worst prison in America. It had 370 the worst prisoners you can name.
Can I ask you why? Wasn't your case mainly drugs? I mean,
My case, I was a nonviolent first offender.
why do you think they
just,
did
you got to understand, Andrew, what was going on in Philly. Incidentally, Philly, you know, had 3 mob wars, ladies and gentlemen, back to back. A lot of people killed, no arrest. So me as a young knucklehead, I fall on a marijuana case, and Washington said, squeeze them.
Wow.
And that's all I know. I was tortured for 32 years.
Now, let me ask you another question. Were you ever approached to cooperate and lessen your sentence?
Never. They would bring it up in the courtroom that he don't want to all for my 32 years. I'm the most appealed federal prisoner today. Numerous appeals. And all through those hearings, I said one sentence. I said one sentence in all those years.
What was
the
that?
judge says, "You got anything to say?" I says, "Yeah. You just didn't give me the credit for that first year I done in solitary."
Well, let me ask you this question honestly: would you have cooperated if you had the?
No,
I know you. I know you wouldn't.
Didn't enter my mind like it didn't enter your mind.
Right. Right.
It didn't enter your mind like it didn't enter my mind. We just were different people.
Right.
Today, I couldn't. I'm not in the life anymore. As a matter of fact, I'm an advocate for getting young people on the right roads, to change their life around.
Mm-hmm. I think that, when you grow up like that because you had no other recourse but to go into a lifestyle like that due to your father, due to the lifestyle, being in Philadelphia. I know you're still very good friends with Joey Merlino.
Joey. Well, when I went to jail, Joey was young. I was very close with his dad. We were together, Chucky Merlino. But Joey was a character even when he was young. I love him. I remember there's a famous restaurant in the Saloon, ladies and gents. It's called the Saloon in Philadelphia. I was in there, and Joey's outside with another young friend, and he called me outside. I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "We need 40,000." I said, "Okay, you need 40,000. If we don't have the money, we're going to be dead by morning."
Whoa!
He's only 15, 16 years old. So I took him to my car. I opened up the trunk. I had money in the trunk. I said, "There it is. But your father has to tell me to give it to you. Because that's part of his money." And he left.
And you're still good friends with him.
Oh yeah. He's been tortured in his life. I think that they lessened up on us Italians because less in New York and us guys in Philly because Philly has so much problems. They have so much violence. Matter of fact, I'm meeting with city officials next week. I've been trying to implement for years now my Cannabis for Guns program. Nothing's working in Philly. We got kids with ghost guns all over the city doing heinous crimes. So I'm trying to get this program where you're 21, you give me your ghost gun, I give you weed.
I know also there was a documentary made with your life story called Life Without Parole.
George Martorano's
story. And the story is amazing because you just think about 32 years is life. That's your life. That's, like...
Well, I was the fourth person in America to get life, no parole.
Right.
They never gave that sentence. The three before me were repeated violent offenders.
Right.
So my case was all orchestrated. I was sold out from my lawyer. The judge was involved. It was just insane what they did to me. Washington was involved. And if you're not going to rat, you have to live with it.
Right.
So I lived with it. And I'm amazed how I survived, Andrea. I'm amazed.
What are you doing with your life today? I know you've been out, you got out what, 2015?
2015,
Right.
I hit the streets running. I have my own cannabis brand, the Grow Father. You're talking to the Grow Father. I have my own cannabis brand. I have my own cannabis beer, the Grow Father beer. One of my beers is my prison mugshot. Actually, my real prison mugshot on the can and bottle. So, but I sincerely deliver strong messages around the country. You can take negative and turn it into positive.
Right.
So that's the message I try to deliver to a lot of young people.
I think, though, that 32 years incarcerated, you had to come across many, many people going through the system.
Oh my God!
You must have so many stories.
Tell you stories. In Marion, one of my workout buddy was, I don't think it was his real name, Darrell Holmes, but when I went to another jail, and they heard that I knew him, if you're a psychologist that works for the Federal Bureau of Prisons, you have to read darrellsholmes dossier, because Darrell's home, he cut an inmate's head off.
Oh my God!
He cut a guard's head off, and he cut a psychologist's head off in the Colorado system. Then they buried him. He was them. Where they hear that story where a guy was actually, I think John Voight made a movie. They actually welded you in your cell. Well, they welded him in the cell in Colorado.
He sounds like the real Cannibal Lecter.
Yeah, but listen, he Believe it or not, Andrew, he was a very handsome guy.
Really?
He looked like the actor Peter O'Toole. Very mild-mannered. You know, in
What the
Marion,
heck
there's
was
only
that?
34 guys on a cell block. And I had a few friends. But when he became my workout buddy, nobody wanted to talk to me anymore. They used to whisper to me, "We ain't talking with that guy."
I just can't imagine for a nonviolent crime. I mean, we know why John Gotti was in Marion.
Yeah, John was some years later. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, Marion is supposed to be like
The worst.
worst federal.
370 guys, but people don't understand. Majority of them were state prisoners that the state couldn't control them, like states like didn't have maximum security prisons. Wyoming, Montana, New Hampshire, Vermont, places like that. They don't have maximum security prisons. So these people were so violent that the state would pay to keep them at Marion.
Wow. So, you know, we just did the Get Gotti show. You know that. And
So I was there. I enjoyed it immensely.
Thank you. And tell me a little bit about John Gotti. I know you were with him for like 2 years.
He's very well-read individual. He had people don't know, he had a real severe childhood. We'll get into that in another show. No one has ever wrote about John's childhood, but I know it. I don't even think his family knows.
Probably not. I mean,
what
I'm
he
sure he's
went
not
through
going
as
to
a
tell
child,
his kids. He comes from a large family. I know that. I think there were 13 of them.
Yeah. And I know some from the visiting room back then. Matter of fact, his family and my family used to visit together. But they was all there. We were on the floor with all the commission trial.
Right.
We were there with the whole commission trial. Actually, that floor we had the Machacheros who tried to take over the Puerto Rican government. They were on that floor. You had Ohio 8. They were Brinks car robbers out of Ohio. You had the New York 7, who were robbing Brinks trucks in New York. So you had all the biggest,
lot of crime,
biggest cases there. So that's when I heard about you.
Oh God, oh God! And you were also with Fat Tony Serlano, right?
Yeah, Fat Tony. We lived on one tier. All the bosses and underbosses lived on one tier. You couldn't come up that tier unless we knew you. And
Italian.
We all kept our doors open.
Okay.
You only shut the door when you had to do something private or you went to sleep. And Fat Tony lived next door. And one night, we're very close with Tony. But see, I knew Tony way before that.
Right.
I used to drive my godfather. I had a learner's permit. And my godfather, Angelo Bruno, had a driver's. You can't have a learner's permit unless you drive with someone that has a license. And I had a brand new Camaro, like an orange flaming Firebird. And I used to drive him up to see Fat Tony on 116th Street. So I knew all them. I met them all. Fat Tony, Tom Mix, Tony Ducks, Paul. Cause I met them all when I was young.
Right.
But I used to drop my godfather and I used to disappear. Go shop and maybe I'm a kid, pick up a girl. So I've been around the mob all my life. And then Tony told me a lot about individuals, but he spoke the truth.
Yeah.
Tony didn't lie. John didn't lie. You don't lie.
No, I know. And I think that today you have, especially in the genre that we're in, with podcasts, you have all these guys that cooperated. They didn't do time like you did. They just didn't.
Well, I don't know who they're fooling. They're not fooling me or people like me. They're sure not fooling you. But
No.
I don't know. It's very simple. Anybody, you say you this, you say that, it's very simple. All you guys out there with these podcasts, I don't know you. Me and Angie will invite you to dinner. Come to dinner down Mulberry Street. Show yourself.
Yeah.
Very simple. You do these podcasts, and who are you? You just live in
Recluse.
Yeah. So
I think that not even that, they still think they're in the streets.
they're not in the streets.
Cooperating witnesses.
They're not,
when you
well, listen. To me, America loves the mob stories, so they're putting them out there, and I hope they're doing okay. I hope their families benefited from it. But again, you want to say anything about anybody, let's go down Mulberry Street and talk about it.
Right.
Or come to Philadelphia, one of my restaurants, talk about it.
Apparently, nobody knows me. Apparently, that's what was said. No one knows me. They don't know who I am.
I know you were associate. I know that. Anybody disputes that, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. I heard it right from the horse's mouth. They said there was this beautiful girl involved with the marijuana. You sure you wasn't involved with it? John said, because back then I think I was a little better looking. I was in a cell with John. I was in my mid-30s.
Yeah.
So
I just think that, we're in the world today. It's not like it was back in the 70s, 80s, even the 60s, when my mom was doing stuff with Crazy Joe Gallo. I think that when people started cooperating, it was more and more comfortable for when, like even now, if people get arrested, you get 5 guys, 10 guys get arrested. 6 of them are probably going to jump on a wagon to cooperate to save themselves. But that was happening when they were giving out that big time like you got. You got 32 years. They were giving out life sentences. That's what people started cooperating.
Well, I can't answer for those who cooperated. I don't deal with them.
I know you have.
I wish their families well, but I never entered my mind. I just never entered my mind. And I did 5 years in solitary. And but you got to understand, after I did solitary, went to all the worst penitentiaries.
That's got to be so
and
hard.
Penitentiaries today they're killing fields.
Right.
Today, the penitentiaries are killing fields. They are so gang related. And they're locked down.
They say the gangs run them.
Oh,
the
yeah.
gangs run the penitentiaries today.
They're locked down, I'd like 6-7 months out of the year. So if you add all the lockdowns I've been, probably another 5 years.
And look at how far you've come in your life. I know you're very busy.
Well, I'm like I said, I'm into cannabis. I have my own beer brewery. I want to film. Andrea's helping me with the filming. She's a very generous woman. Mm-hmm. And I didn't come out with a chip on my shoulder. I didn't come because I was a mentor educator. Till today, in the federal system, no one in the history of the Bureau of Prisons has graduated. I graduated, documented over 8,000 inmate students. But I'm more proud of it, Washington, D.C. approved for me to create my own curriculum.
Wow.
That means if you graduated my class, you were keyed in your computer system, BOP, into your file, and you can use that to get relief from court. So I'm very proud of it. 2 classes are still going on. I hope they're still going on. One was Fathers Behind Bars. Mm-hmm. We took estranged fathers and united with them children to a program. And you had to, in my classes, you had to have 2 things. You had to have a GED, or you had to be registered in a GED. And my Fathers Behind Bars class, you had to write a letter to yourself, how to be a better father.
Wow.
And you had to read it in front of the class. And some of these guys I'm a convict. There's a difference between an inmate and a convict.
What's the difference? Explain that to the audience.
A convict goes by the old set of prison rules.
Okay.
Anybody calls me an inmate, it's an insult.
Really?
I'm a convict.
Okay.
In other words, I'm there to live or die.
Okay.
Either I'm going to walk out or I'm going to die.
Okay.
So, like I said, I'm very proud of my prison record, and that's what basically got me out. I mean, I can go on and on. Everybody's seen the movie with Nicolas Cage, Con Air?
Yeah.
Well, I was the real Con Air.
Okay.
That's documented. Anybody can research George Martorano handcuff key. I was almost killed in a prison transport.
Now tell me about something, I don't know, I hear about this, that you always carry something around in your pocket.
How'd you know that?
I have friends. I don't know. Do you still do it?
Yeah, I travel a lot, and...
Can you tell my audience?
Yeah, I'll show you one. It's everywhere I dine. Like I got into New York last night and I had dine, and I always take a fork and I tell them to put it on my check because...
Why?
Well, if you bother me, I'm going to, use the fork to save myself, but it's legal. I already checked at my attorneys. It's not a weapon, it's a fork. So everywhere I go, well...
So the fork is your protection.
Yeah.
In a legal manner.
Right.
Okay.
Listen, Anybody thinks the streets are safe,
No, they're
don't
not.
know what they're talking about. Last night I was up late, and I walked 4 blocks, and I got accosted, and I pulled my fork out.
Really? Okay.
So I don't know if the guy thought I was going to invite him to dinner or what, but he got the message.
Okay.
So
You got
it's
your
just,
fork.
it's just, when people travel, even women, when you travel in strange cities, you go to dinner, you take every time I take a fork, I tell them to put it on my check.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's George Martorano.
Okay. There's also a story I heard about when you were arrested, I believe, overseas. I don't know if it's Colombia, Brazil, one of those countries. You did time, and tell them about that.
I worked Costa Rica, I worked Venezuela, I worked Colombia, I worked Jamaica. I mean, there's so many daring. I don't know. God looked out for me in strange ways, but when I left the country, I was more daring. I just was more daring. And one time in Colombia, I went there to buy weed, and you bought or flew into Barranquilla. I used to have my own plane, and I went to my guys. I said, I need weed. They said, forget about it. I said, what's the matter? Somebody beat the Indians. The Indians grow the weed up in the Santa Marta mountains there, low mountains.
Uh-huh.
So you have to deal with them, and you don't want to not pay the Indians.
Really?
You don't want to do that. So some individual didn't pay the Indians. So the chief of the tribe sent a guy into Barranquilla with a machete, found somebody that was involved with the situation. And this is true, lady. They cut his head off and sat on the curb until the police came and got him. So I fly in, and I said, listen, I ain't wasting my time. I'm going up there and getting my weed. He said, Georgie, you go up there, you ain't coming back.
Oh.
So I said, give me a driver. You got about, from Barranquilla up into the Santa Marta region, it's about a 2-hour drive. And I told the kid, I said, make sure you got no gun, because you're going to get stopped. This was the era when we're fighting against the Colombian government, the guerrillas, the FAR movement. And I says, do not have a gun. So we go, sure enough, we get stopped by a military checkpoint. They looked under the seat. This kid had a machine pistol, with the big clip. Wow. And I says, oh, no. So they take me and the kid, they take me to a military compound. I mean, you would have seen this. It was on a slight rise. There's about a half a dozen cells, straw in the cells, and a trough of water goes through the back of the cell. Now, that water is for your drinking, where you did your waste and where you washed.
Wow.
So, but back then I was smart. I did a lot of traveling. I used to have my clothes made with a secret compartment. In my clothes, I used to carry 3 diamonds.
Why?
3 diamonds. Because when they get arrested out of the country, they're taking everything from you. Your jewelry, your watch, your shoes, they take everything. But in the middle of the night, I ripped my pocket, took a diamond, telephone. Showed him the diamond. He brought me to the phone. Middle of the night, I called. But I always told him when I go into the chair, I left messages with my friends in Barranquilla. Back then, they didn't call them cartels.
Okay.
It was just a gang. It was called Raymond the Boss. And I said, make sure there's somebody by this phone. And I called, and I told them I'm arrested. I told them where I'm at. Bring 20,000 U.S. Be here tomorrow morning because they're going to execute me.
Really?
The commandant says, you bring weapons too far. We're going to execute you. So I had no ID. And sure enough, my friends were there in the morning with 20,000 U.S. The same guy who was going to execute me. We're in his office drinking cognac and having coffee. He said, you do business with me. So that's some of my experiences.
So you had to give him the diamonds? Where were the diamonds?
No, I only gave one.
One diamond,
But
okay.
he never would. The guard wouldn't say he got a diamond. They would kill him.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not going to tell anything about the
Right.
diamond. But anytime I traveled out of the country, my clothes had a secret compartment.
To put those diamonds in so you can...
Well, you get a guard who's probably making $200 a year.
Okay.
You show him a diamond,
Yeah.
you know.
You have a lot of good stories. I'm sure a lot of stories,
I can
even
tell you.
while you were incarcerated. But I'm definitely
I'm a river of stories. That's why I became a writer. Not to lose my mind. I became a writer, educator, mentor. I did more filming in prison than I did out. BOP used to film me with classes. We had dignitaries, politicians used to come to all my programs. Matter of fact, they took the parole away in 1992. They took parole away. You couldn't get out of prison. Couldn't get out of prison. And they also took the Pell Grants. Pell Grant was after you got you graduated your GED, you were allowed to apply for a Pell Grant to further your education. Okay, you had community colleges all over America that would come into these federal jails. Professors, that was taken away. So the worst thing you can do to an individual is not let his mind grow.
right.
So I had a good warden, and we talked. I said, Warden, we have to do something. You cannot let their minds not grow. So me and this warden, we started the early release program. I started the early release program that's implemented today.
Wow.
We started out in a jail in Florida. Actually, we were funded. It was called the Skills Program, and it's in every federal jail today, the Skills Program, and it's the most funded of all the jails. And to get in this Skills Program, the inmate must sign a contract. It's an 18-month stringent program. But after you graduate, you can use that to go back to court and try to get closer to home. So I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, you should be proud of that. You did a lot of good things with yourself, and you're doing a lot of good things with yourself now, getting out there. And don't you have something going on also in Las Vegas with the Mob Museum?
Yeah, the Mob Museum, which you're going to be a part of.
Thank you.
Geez, I didn't know about it till I got to Vegas, and it's been down there down Fremont area. I think it's there 11 years. Does very well. They're open 7 days a week. And if you want to see a lot about the mob, entire United States mob, you go there. It's a real good, it's amazing experience there, the mob Museum. I think I'm going to be doing a podcast starting April.
Okay. And aren't they, I heard there's some talks about Philadelphia, maybe bringing something to Philadelphia.
Well, I'm trying. I found a museum grant association.
Mm-hmm.
They would match dollar for dollar with the Mob Museum. I already spoke to them. I think I need about $3 million. The grant would be $1.5 million, and the Mob Museum, I want to open up in Philly. I was thinking about New York, Andrea, in the beginning, but my friends felt, you're well known enough. You can do it in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And the bottom line, since I'm home, what I'm most proud of, I create jobs.
Right.
I create jobs for young people.
I mean, you have an amazing story. I mean, people that fascinated, like 32 hardcore years in a federal penitentiary it's insane. And then you come out and you're still successful. You have that drive to be successful and to help other people. That's what's amazing about you.
Yeah, well, I used to tell my students, I used to have 7 classes a week. I used to tell my students, don't count the years, just count the Christmases. It's easier.
Well, what would you like to tell the audience before we close out?
Well, number one, I really respect you. Like I said, I knew about you before you knew about me. And I know you were in the mix. And anybody that discredits that doesn't know what they're talking about. Whatever you guys are doing with your life, like I said, I'll go to the grave the way I am. And I know Andrea would too. Mm-hmm. Simple as that.
Thanks for coming on. I'm going to have you on. I know you have so many wonderful stories, but thank you all for tuning in. Please subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Leave a comment, leave a thumbs up. And thank you again, George. And please subscribe.
You don't have to thank me. I'll do anything for you.
Oh, thank you.